From reacting to his emotional interview with Rose Namajunas to interviewing a badly injured Conor McGregor, here's everything about Joe Rogan reacting to his emotional UFC interviews. Like episode number 1665, where Joe mentioned some of the most brilliant women in the UFC, such as the remarkable Rose Namajunas. She is a total badass mixed martial artist from the US. With lightning-fast strikes and some slick grappling moves, she's got skills for days. Rose trained at the Rufus Sport MMA Academy under the legendary coach Duke Rufus. You might have seen her on The Ultimate Fighter, where after she made her UFC debut. And boy did she make a lasting first impression. She shocked the world after knocking out Joanna Jędrzejczyk to become the strawweight champion. She defended her title, had a setback, but never backed down and fought her way back to reclaim that belt. The gal is an inspiration to fighters everywhere. She's definitely left her mark in the octagon, much like Zhang Weili. Zhang started out training in traditional Chinese martial arts, and it paid off. She's got skills that will make your jaw drop. I'm talking bullet-fast strikes, killer kicks, and grappling skills that give a grizzly a tough time. Her style of fighting is a perfect blend of power and finesse. It's like watching a beautifully chaotic dance of destruction. She became the first ever Chinese UFC champion after knocking out Jessica Andrade in just seconds, and went on to defend that title against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She's only getting started, my friends. So, after mentioning these two monsters of the sport, Joe talked about his interview with Rose from 2021. Rose v. Zhang for the strawweight championship was an epic battle, let me tell you. Both of them were trying to assert dominance, obviously. Then, out of nowhere, Rose unleashed a kick straight to her dome. Zhang went crashing down to the canvas, and the crowd went wild. I mean, folks, that kick was a lightning bolt of pure power. Joe went to interview Rose right after that victory. Imagine a fighter who just went through an exhausting battle, damaged and bloodied, and Joe is right there with a mic in hand, ready to capture their thoughts. Anyone can see it in his eyes that he really listens and absorbs all their emotions. His reactions range from awe to absolute excitement, just like the emotions the fighters experience in the ring. He played the video of that interview during the show. According to the man, he'd never cried during an interview in the octagon before. But that day, Rose was crying, Joe was crying, even I was crying. He said none of that was about male savagery, which is what he was discussing with Carol at the time. It's about someone trying to overcome all the obstacles that are in their way of greatness, Joe said. He mentions how Rose is a super sweet and emotional person, one of the most feminine people ever. And before the fight, he saw her just standing there, almost in a trance, going, "I'm the best, I'm the best." Damn, I might need a tissue again. And that interview is just one example. Remember that unforgettable interview after the fight of the year? I'm of course talking about the fight between Robbie Lawler and Rory MacDonald in 2015. Robbie, the reigning welterweight champion, was defending his title against the hungry and determined Rory. Round after round, these warriors pushed themselves to the limit. The octagon turned into a bloody canvas. Things took a dramatic turn in the fourth round. Lawler caught MacDonald with a brutal left hook that shattered his nose, leaving a trail of blood down his face. Ouch! That sent shockwaves through the arena and viewers worldwide and through my body. Despite taking some serious punishment, MacDonald refused to back down. He fought with everything he had, displaying incredible heart and determination. It was a fight for the ages, my friends. Joe had a chance to talk to the two warriors who left every ounce of themselves in the cage. Their faces were bruised, but their spirits were high. You could hear the excitement in Joe's voice. It was just like the adrenaline coursing through everyone's veins at the time. He celebrated their effort, technique, and indomitable spirit. It was an electrifying moment, and you couldn't help but feel the passion radiating from Joe. But it's not just emotional interviews that get Joe fired up. When a UFC interview goes viral, he knows how to ride that wave too. There have been countless moments where Joe reacts to interviews that spread like wildfire across the internet. This brings me to his unforgettable interview with Khabib Nurmagomedov. It was after Khabib's victory over Tony Ferguson's replacement, Al Quinta, at UFC 223. Using his insane grappling skills, he was able to take down his opponent over and over again. He really brought his wrestling skills to play, showing superior control and ground and pound, landing strikes while keeping a strong top position. He won it after 5 rounds by unanimous decision, with all 3 judges in his favor. That's when Joe stepped in. As you'd expect, adrenaline was high at the moment already, and you could see it in Joe's face too. The interview was pretty normal until Khabib called out his nemesis Conor. He pretty much straight up said something like, "Conor, I'm coming for you." The public went nuts. It was a jaw-dropping bomb in the MMA world. Even though some weren't sure if the fight would actually happen, and that it was just a publicity stunt, normal trash talk to build hype, but regardless of all that, it was a huge moment. Joe's reaction said it all. He had that "whoa, this is big" moment look on his face. He was caught off guard, and he couldn't contain his surprise and excitement. Of course, he knew a fight between them would be one of the biggest in UFC history. And sometimes, a viral call-out interview actually helps Joe personally too. Like the one after the fight between Nate Diaz and former lightweight BJ Penn. He was expected to face St-Pierre for the UFC welterweight title, but that fight was memorably cancelled after Nate skipped out on a big press conference. So he faced Penn instead, and it was one hell of a win. In his post-fight interview with Joe, he famously called out the guy that he was supposed to fight. He straight up said he's scared to fight anybody right now, while Pierre was right there in the stands, which of course electrified the crowd. But what happened next was unexpected for everyone, including Joe. Rogan was in his usual element. He said that he was excited to see Nate fight for the title, which Nate completely ignored and instead gave Joe a shout out. "Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day," he shouted. That surely must have made Joe's day, and will go down as one of his most famous interviews. And so it did, much like the one that took place after the fight between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. It was UFC 264, and both fighters stepped into the octagon with a ton of hype surrounding them. Conor, the notorious Irish superstar, was looking for redemption after his loss to Poirier in their previous encounter. Poirier, a talented and determined fighter, aimed to assert his dominance over McGregor. The fight kicked off with some intense back-and-forth action. Conor unleashed lightning-fast punches, while Poirier fired back with his own powerful shots. It was shaping up to be an epic showdown, but then, out of nowhere, the unthinkable happened. Towards the end of the first round, McGregor threw a devastating punch, but when he tried to put more power into it, his leg gave out. It snapped. The ref stepped in and quickly stopped the fight. Dustin won by doctor stoppage. Tough break indeed. It was a really emotional moment for McGregor and his fans. And for Joe. As all of this was happening, Joe and his microphone were getting ready to make it into the action. He went straight to the injured superstar. Imagine interviewing one of the biggest fighters in the world who's just suffered a career-ending injury. What do you say? What do you ask? But Joe always knows what to say. He made sure he was calm and contained. He started off by acknowledging the tough situation and expressed genuine concern for Conor's well-being. He asked how Conor was feeling and allowed him to share his thoughts and emotions. With pain and disappointment in his eyes, Conor expressed a mix of anger and resilience. Joe dove deep into the potential rematch, analyzing styles and predicting how the fight could play out. You could tell he was fueling the hype train already. It was an extremely emotional interview for everyone, including Joe. And he conducted it like a real pro. That's just what he does when he asks the questions. He's really good at getting people to share their most revealing answers. He likes to break everything down for the viewers: fighters' backgrounds, training camps, and mental states. It helps give the viewers a sneak peek into how fighters think and operate. So, from interviewing a badly injured Conor McGregor to reacting to his emotional interview with Rose Namajunas, that was everything about Joe Rogan reacting to emotional UFC interviews.